People talk about the slow fade of a marriage like it's some inevitable sunset. Graceful, gentle, beautiful even. Ours was more like a Wi-Fi signal dropping mid-Zoom meeting. No warning. 1 minute you're there, present, engaged. The next, it's just frozen screens and long silences. Samantha and I met the way most couples do nowadays, online. Her profile photo had that kind of subtlety people try hard to fake. No filters, just her leaning against a brick wall, laughing at something out of frame. I like that. She said she taught second grade, lived in a town 20 minutes from mine, loved caramel macchiatos, and hated cilantro with the fire of 1,000 suns. I thought that was cute. 2 years later, we got married on a Tuesday. Courthouse. Her idea. Said she didn't want the fuss. I should have asked more questions. I work in IT, corporate, but small scale. Network security, firewalls, VPN audits. The stuff nobody at family gatherings wants to hear about. Samantha always said I was charmingly boring, which I took as a compliment until I realized it was just boring, with a bow tie on. We lived in a split level in Indiana. Modest house, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Baxter. He died last year. I still keep his collar hanging in the garage, not for sentimental reasons, just forgot to toss it. No kids. Not for lack of trying. Turned out Samantha had some issues the doctors politely called complicated, and I just stopped bringing it up after a while. She didn't cry about it. Just went quiet. That was Samantha's thing. Not tears. Silence. Anyway, I don't know exactly when the shift happened. It wasn't overnight. She didn't start wearing red lipstick out of the blue or suddenly go to the gym 5 times a week. That's not how this went down. It was more like, every time I said, I love you, she said She got into this routine of taking long walks after dinner. Same route. Same beat-up white sneakers. She said it helped her clear her head, though what she needed to clear out so often, I never really knew. Sometimes she'd come back talking about a podcast or some random neighbor's new lawn furniture like we were still in the habit of small talk. I kept playing along. That's what husbands do, right? Smile. Nod. Mow the lawn and check the sump pump and pretend your wife still looks at you like you're somebody. But here's where it got weird. Not found a sock under the bed weird. Not accidentally saw a text weird. Samantha started asking about my schedule. Like, obsessively. You're working from home Thursday, right? Or, your team's still doing that off-site next week. It was subtle, but deliberate. One night, she made a spreadsheet of my weekly calendar. Said she wanted to sync our routines. She even color-coded it. Mine was blue. Hers was orange. At the time, I actually thought it was sweet. That was before I realized she was treating my life like a time slot she needed to work around. One Thursday, I got home early from a client visit. Pulled into the driveway, saw the kitchen lights were off. That was odd. Samantha always left the lights on. Said it made the house feel warm. But that day, darkness. I went inside. Quiet. Then, a voice, hers, talking from the office room. I moved closer. Thought maybe she was on the phone. But when I peeked in, she was just sitting there. Not working. Not watching anything. Just sitting at my desk, looking at one of my old sketchbooks. Now, here's the thing. I haven't drawn in years. Used to be my thing in college, but life, work, bills, you know how it goes. This sketchbook? Buried in the back of the filing cabinet under expired warranties and old tax returns. She didn't notice me at first. I stood in the hallway, frozen, watching. I felt like a guest in my own house. Then she spoke, real low, like talking to herself. He's just so easy. Predictable. I coughed, loud enough to snap her out of whatever alternate reality she was in. Oh, hey, you're home early. I nodded. Client canceled. She smiled too fast. I was just looking for a charger. Right. I didn't say anything. Just went upstairs, changed out of my polo shirt, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning like a wheel on a game show. Was this what marriage had become? Sneaking around your own house to overhear your wife talk like you're a background character in her life? I should have confronted her. Asked what the hell she meant by easy. But I didn't. Because I needed to be sure. Because even though the signs were there, they weren't proof. Not yet. So instead, I played dumb. I acted normal. I took the trash out. Cleaned the gutters. Bought her favorite oat milk from the overpriced store with the tiny carts. And she kept walking. Kept clearing her head. What she didn't know was that I'd started walking too. Not with her. Just behind her. She had no clue I was following her one evening, staying far enough back. watching her take the same sidewalk loops. But when she turned down a different street one Tuesday, not our neighborhood, not her usual, I knew something was off. She walked up to a tiny community book drop box, opened it, took out a book, and slid a folded piece of paper inside. Then she looked around and left. I waited. Came back an hour later. Same box. Different man. He pulled up in a black Subaru. Took out the note. Read it. Smiled. Put one back in. Then drove off. I didn't know who he was. Not yet. But I knew what I was looking at. Not a walk. Not fresh air. Not a podcast. A system. And Samantha was the one who built it. You don't create a Dropbox method unless you're serious. Unless you want things hidden, private, analog. That's when it started to get interesting. Because Samantha didn't realize she married the kind of guy who documents everything. That spreadsheet she made. I added my own tabs. And trust me, the formula was about to get messy. The next morning, I poured my coffee like nothing had changed. Samantha came downstairs in her usual Target loungewear, hair in a messy bun, scrolling through something on her phone like she hadn't planted a coded note in a community book dropped the night before. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, tasted like guilt and coconut chapstick, and then mumbled something about faculty meetings running late this week. I said, and smiled, which I'm guessing is exactly how she's been getting away with this. That day, I didn't go to work. Took a sick day. Faked a sinus headache over Slack, which no one questions when you're the guy who reminds everyone to turn on two-factor authentication. I parked 4 blocks down from the book drop around 4:30 p.m., same time as the day before. And there she was again, 5:08 p.m. like clockwork, walking straight to that box in her white sneakers and that same gray hoodie she always wears when she's in comfort mode. I watched her from the car, behind my cracked open laptop screen. I wasn't just watching her now, I was logging data. Time of arrival, 5:08 p.m. Duration at the box, 21 seconds. Left item, folded paper. Looked around before leaving, yes. Direction of exit, east toward Parkridge Lane. She turned the corner, headphones in, head down. I waited. At exactly 6:01, black Subaru pulls in. Same guy, mid-30s. Athletic build. Jeans and a Henley, smug expression. Takes the paper, leaves one. Drives off. Now, you might be thinking, Benjamin, why not just confront her right then and there? Or follow the guy? Because I'm not a TV character. I didn't want the story, I wanted the hard drive. So I went home and pulled the quietest trick in the book. I acted normal. Sat with her during dinner while she recapped some second graders' meltdown over glue sticks. I even pretended to care. Told her I was thinking about planning a quick weekend getaway, just the two of us. Her smile faltered. Just a twitch, and that's all I needed to see. That night, while she showered, I did what every unappreciated husband with decent Google skills does. I got crafty. The book drop was city-maintained, part of a little neighborhood program run through the Parks Department. I found the name of the guy who spearheaded the project, Timothy Carmichael, a librarian/volunteer, dad/easy mark. He had a public Instagram page, and more importantly, an email address in a community newsletter PDF from last year. I messaged him the next morning, said I was doing a local history blog on neighborhood microlibraries. Could I ask a few questions? Maybe even take a look at one of the drop boxes up close? Timothy was thrilled. Gave me the schedule for his weekly restock. He checks the drop-offs every Saturday around noon. Said he'd be happy to meet. I didn't go there to meet him. I went there Friday night. At 11:30 p.m., I parked down the street, walked to the box in gloves and a beanie, and opened it up. No one in sight. I had my flashlight, my own envelope, and an AirTag. I folded it into a blank piece of paper inside an innocuous manila folder labeled Donations, Grade 3. I stuck it at the bottom of the box, under a copy of Little Women and 2 worn cookbooks. Then I waited. Saturday, for 58 p.m., the app buzzed. AirTag was moving. I opened my phone. The dot pinged near the downtown district, a strip of condos above retail, popular with people who have rooftop grills and say things like, bro, unironically. At 5:27 p.m., the AirTag stopped pinging at a specific address, 1820 Greenvale Terrace, Unit 2B. I Googled the building. Public records showed 4 condo units. I pulled up the owner's database and reverse searched. Unit 2B was leased under a corporate trust. That smelled off. I did a LinkedIn deep dive and found a real estate broker who handled executive rentals. I emailed her pretending to be a potential tenant. asked if Unit 2B was available. She responded in 10 minutes. Hi, Benjamin. Unfortunately, 2B is currently occupied by one of our clients. It's a midterm corporate lease used by a visiting faculty member from Marlowe College. There it was. Visiting faculty. Marlowe College. Samantha's alma mater. She goes back every May to do a guest reading for Teacher Appreciation Week. Last year, she mentioned an old professor she reconnected with. Said they'd stayed in touch. Claimed he helped her brainstorm curriculum updates. Yeah, I bet he did. But here's the twist. I still didn't know his name. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her emails. Not her phone. Never touched that. Her laptop? That was fair game. We shared it. Technically, it was mine. I'd set it up, maintained it, paid for it. And Samantha, God bless her, never logged out of anything. I searched the name Marlowe, and up popped a thread titled Workshop Follow-Up. Sender, Dr. Conrad Fisher. Email, fisher@marlowecollege.edu. A couple of messages down, the tone shifted. Still thinking about our dinner conversation and the rest of it. I miss our Thursdays. Let me know if you got my note. There it was. The puzzle snapped into place with the kind of cold satisfaction that makes your spine ache. Dr. Conrad Fisher, visiting psych lecturer, divorced, former keynote speaker at some Emotional Intelligence for Educators event that Samantha raved about last fall. Of course it was him. Samantha always said she liked men who really understood people. Well, now I knew what she meant. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I started building a timeline. All the Thursday walks. Every late faculty meeting. I made a spreadsheet. Our spreadsheet, the one she color-coded, and added a third column. Column C, lies. April 6th, late conference call, equals 5:32 p.m. pickup by Black Subaru, parked 3 blocks over. April 20th, walk turned into a spontaneous Target trip, equals condo ping for AirTag from 6:14 to 8:59 p.m. May 2nd, emergency staff meeting, equals Uber receipt in email inbox showing trip to Greenvale Terrace. I printed it. I printed it all. And I sat on it for one more week. Because here's the kicker. Samantha was planning a surprise dinner for our anniversary. I overheard her on a call with her friend Emily, talking about booking a reservation at some hip farm-to-table place with reclaimed wood menus and pretentious wine pairings. I played dumb, smiled like a Labrador, said I had no clue what she was planning. The night of the dinner, I put on a blazer, let her fix my collar, let her kiss me with that same lip balm and distant look. And as we sat in the restaurant under Edison bulbs and overpriced cheese boards, she looked at me with this kind of forced warmth and said, "I'm really glad we're doing this. Things have felt off lately." I almost laughed, because while she sipped her stupid organic sangria, I already had the name of her lover, the address of their little hideaway, and every lie she'd told color-coded in a folder labeled Anniversary Gifts. She didn't know it yet, but her present was coming next, and it would arrive with a smile. Because when I play dumb, Samantha, I do it professionally. Tuesday, 6:02 a.m. The sun hadn't even decided whether it was worth rising yet, and I was already in the garage, sipping coffee and staring at the folder I'd prepped the night before. 53 pages. All printed. All neatly tabbed. You ever notice how printer ink smells a little like satisfaction when it's your own receipts you're printing? Samantha was upstairs, probably choosing earrings to match her underpaid educator with a mild mystery aesthetic. She always went for small hoops. I used to think it was understated elegance. Now I knew it was just part of the act. She came down wearing that same oatmeal-colored cardigan she always wore when she wanted to look emotionally available but uninterested. Like if a therapist and a barista had a baby. "Morning," she said, peeking over her mug like we were still in the part of our marriage where that word meant something. "Big day today?" I asked. She nodded. "Parent-teacher conferences this afternoon. You know how it goes. And don't forget, I won't be home till later. They always run long." I held her gaze. "I'll be sure to write that down in our calendar." She laughed, completely missing the acid in my tone. "You're cute when you're passive-aggressive." If she only knew how aggressive this was going to get. At 4:58 p.m., I was parked across from the book drop again. I watched her make the drop, her little envelope routine, like she was starring in some indie romance only she knew about. Same steps, same glance over the shoulder. This woman had choreography. I waited until she turned the corner. And then I did something new. I walked to the box. I opened it. And I took the envelope. Just took it, slid it into my coat pocket, closed the door, and walked away. 5 minutes later, I was home, at the kitchen table, cutting it open with the same utility knife I'd used to install our garbage disposal. Inside was a typed note. Of course it was typed. Nothing incriminating in handwriting. Just like a coward. It read, "This week has been harder than usual. I miss you. The time apart feels heavy. I keep thinking about last Thursday. About your hands. I hate the wait. I want more. Soon." No name. No signature. Just a lowercase s, typed at the bottom like some middle school kid trying to be cryptic. "Samantha, you absolute amateur." I photocopied it, then resealed the original in a fresh envelope with a generic inspirational quote I printed from Pinterest. Slid it back in the box like nothing ever happened. Then I made the call. "Conrad Fisher?" Long pause. "Speaking." "Hi, Dr. Fisher. Benjamin Kessler. Samantha's husband." Silence. I could practically hear him scanning his memory banks for an emergency exit. Hi. This is unexpected." "I bet it is," I said. "You're probably busy with faculty stuff, but I was hoping we could meet." "Sure," he said. "What's this about?" "Oh, nothing urgent. Just wanted to talk about boundaries. You know, man to man." Sure. I suppose we could find a time." "No need. I'm outside." Pause. Then, cautiously, "Outside where?" 1820 Greenvale Terrace. Unit 2B. You've got a nice Subaru, by the way." Silence again. Then I hung up. Didn't give him a chance to respond. I wasn't here for a conversation. I was here to let him sweat. He came down 7 minutes later. Button down half tucked, hair messed up like he just woke up from a nap or an existential crisis. I stood next to his car, arms crossed, holding the folder. I smiled like I was pitching him a startup. "Dr. Fisher." He gave a half nod. "Mr. Kessler." I handed him the folder. "This is yours now." He looked at it. "What is this?" "Every Thursday. Every email. Every lie. Don't worry, I didn't make a second copy. That would have been illegal." I smiled wider. "That one's all yours. Keep it. Frame it." He tried to hand it back. "Look, I don't think this is." "I don't care what you think," I said. "I know everything. I know about the notes. The condo. The little secret Dropbox spy games you two play. And I gotta say, for a psychologist, you're pretty bad at subtlety. Benjamin, this is inappropriate." "You know what's inappropriate?" "Typing erotic post, it notes like a high schooler. If you're going to cheat with a married woman, have the decency to be interesting." He flinched at that. "Good. I'm not here to fight you," I said. "Frankly, you're not worth the energy. But I wanted to look you in the eye before you lose everything you thought you were sneakily building. Because it's over. For both of you." He blinked. "Are you threatening me?" "No, Dr. Fisher. I'm informing you. In 24 hours, Samantha will be very publicly reminded of what discretion looks like. She'll get the chance to explain your relationship to her school board, her family, and all the parents at Eastbridge Elementary. And you." I leaned in. "You'll be unpacking that file folder in HR." Then I turned and walked to my car. He didn't follow. I could see in the mirror he was still standing there, holding the folder like it was radioactive. That night, Samantha came home around 9:15 p.m. She dropped her purse on the counter like always, made a noise about being exhausted, and said something about how fourth-grade parents are the worst. I didn't respond, just kept typing on my laptop. She came over and kissed the top of my head. "You okay?" "Peachy," I said. "You?" She nodded. "Yeah, just beat." I looked up at her. "Long day." She shrugged. "Conferences ran over. I didn't even get to eat dinner." I smiled. "That's okay. I made a reservation. For tomorrow." She blinked. "What?" "What?" "Anniversary surprise. Dress nice." Her face twitched, almost panic, but she recovered fast. "Okay, sounds great." She walked upstairs, and I followed 15 minutes later. The next day, we drove together. She wore a black dress I hadn't seen in months, maybe saved for special occasions. I wore my usual blazer, the one she always said made me look like a handsome college professor. I figured that was her type. The restaurant was a new spot. Sleek, minimalist, classy enough to make her think I was going all out. We sat at the table. Appetizers came. I let her talk. She tried to make it normal, laughed a little too loudly, complimented the decor, said something about ordering dessert. And then the server came with the envelope. Plain, cream-colored. No markings. "Compliments of the gentleman at the bar," he said. Samantha looked around, confused. There was no one at the bar. I handed her the envelope. She opened it. Inside, a copy of the note she left at the book drop. Her face drained. The smile vanished. She blinked once, twice, and then looked at me. What is this? I leaned back in my chair. A love letter. You know, the kind that ruins a career. She opened her mouth, closed it. How long have you known? Long enough to give you rope. She swallowed. This isn't what it looks like. Oh, so you didn't lie every Thursday for the last 4 months? You didn't take notes to a book box like a kid playing spy? You didn't sneak off to some rented condo while telling me you were clearing your head? She said nothing. I pushed a small USB drive across the table. That's for you. Copies of the emails. The calendar. The AirTag location pings. Everything. You can keep it. Or burn it. I don't care. She stared at it like it might explode. You're not angry? She asked quietly. Oh, I'm furious, I said. But anger's inefficient. I'm interested in results. She tried to laugh. This is insane. You're being dramatic. I leaned in. And you're about to find out what subtle revenge looks like. No yelling. No scenes. Just consequences. Benjamin. No. You don't get to say my name like that anymore. I stood up, dropped a 20 on the table. Enjoy dessert. And I left. Outside, the air was cool, crisp, the kind of evening that used to feel like a new beginning. And in a way, it still did. I had one more move left to play, and it would be personal, smart, and utterly unforgettable. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was upset. Not anymore. That ship had already sunk, burned, and been circled by sharks. I was awake because I had work to do. Samantha's affair had been a slow-motion insult. Not just the betrayal, that was bad enough. But the insult was how sloppy she had been. Like I was some clueless sitcom husband. She thought she could leave notes in book boxes and tiptoe around the suburbs while I alphabetized the spice rack and waited for her to come home with fresh betrayal under her nails. And that deserved a response. I didn't want rage. I didn't want a scene. What I wanted was clarity. Public, undeniable, can't weasel your way out clarity. She was going to learn what it felt like to have someone rewrite the story, not scream at her in a driveway or torch her clothes in a fire pit. No, I was going to let her fall face first into a mirror she'd polished herself. And I wanted her to see every crack. So I called in sick again. Then I called a friend, Tyler. Works in media. He owes me for that time I helped him retrieve a fried hard drive full of video edits for some nonprofit thing his boss forgot to back up. I told him I needed a very specific kind of help. He said, tell me where and when. Thursday, 5:55 p.m. Samantha was in her routine. I knew that because she's nothing if not consistent. I watched her leave from the upstairs window, headed off for another walk. At 6:08, she dropped her usual envelope at the book box. And 5 minutes later, Tyler arrived. He wasn't there to confront anyone. His job was simple: retrieve the note, take a video of the contents, and record the next pickup from a discreet distance. He got everything. HD, clean audio. Perfect shot of Dr. Conrad Fisher, smiling like a weasel and pocketing the letter. We had a timestamp. We had facial recognition clarity. Then came the fun part. Samantha had spent years building up her image. The warm, engaging teacher who always remembered birthdays and sent handwritten thank you notes. She had this curated reputation at Eastbridge Elementary, like she was the soul of the PDA. Her Instagram was basically a brochure for Midwestern moral excellence. Book stacks, student quotes on sticky notes, and heartfelt captions about nurturing curiosity. The hypocrisy practically begged for sunlight. That night, I created a dummy account. No names, no faces, just a video montage titled, Thursday Letters, a Real Educator Love Story. Tyler did the edit. He kept it classy, just the footage, the envelope, a blurred but obvious shot of Conrad's face, and the audio of him laughing on the phone call he'd picked up as he walked away from the box. Got the message. Tell her I'll bring the wine next time. That was it. No dramatic music. Just raw reality. I posted it on a private page, unlisted but shareable. Then I printed 12 flash drives and 12 identical manila envelopes. No note inside. Just the drive, labeled, for review. Time sensitive. The recipients? The principal of Eastbridge Elementary. Every member of the school board, Samantha's district supervisor, 2 PDA co-presidents, and, because I'm nothing if not thorough, 1 envelope sent to Marlowe College's ethics committee, attention to Dr. Harold Mendel, department chair of psychology. I mailed them Friday morning. Certified. Trackable. No signature required. Let the evidence speak for itself. Then I waited. It didn't take long. By Monday at noon, Samantha called me 5 times. I didn't pick up. I wanted her to stew in the suspense. To not know if I was home, or gone, or waiting. At 12:42 p.m., she texted. What did you do? Not a question. No punctuation. Just panic stuffed into a lowercase sentence like it was hiding from judgment. By 3:10 p.m., Tyler sent me a screenshot from the Eastbridge Elementary Facebook page. Their annual spring fair was postponed until further notice due to unforeseen administrative matters. By 6:22 p.m., the school website had scrubbed Samantha's name from the faculty list. I watched it all unfold from the comfort of the couch. Popcorn would have been too obvious. I settled for almonds. Something quiet, methodical, just like the revenge. At 7:03 p.m., the front door burst open. She didn't knock. She never did. That house still had her name on it, after all. She stood in the doorway, pale, hands shaking slightly. What did you send them? I looked up from the couch. Calm. Detached. Evidence. She dropped her bag. You had no right. Oh no. I had every right. I said, standing. You made your choices. I made mine. You didn't even talk to me. I tilted my head. Funny. You didn't talk to me either. Not before you started writing your little spy notes. Not before you played me like your personal alibi machine. So don't lecture me about communication, Samantha. You forfeited that the day you turned our marriage into a screenplay starring someone else. She stared at me. You ruined my career. No, I said slowly. You did. I just added subtitles. She looked around like she might find a version of her life hiding under the furniture. I didn't think you'd do something, she muttered. I laughed. Exactly. That's why you did it. You thought I'd sit here forever, playing the fool. You married a network analyst, Samantha, not a Labrador. She sat down, slowly, like gravity had turned against her. I don't even know what happens now. I shrugged. Well, you probably won't be welcome at the fall curriculum planning meeting. And as for Dr. Fisher, he's going to be very familiar with the term ethics violation by the end of the week. She covered her face. Jesus. Nope. He wasn't involved. She looked up at me, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she saw me. Not the version of me she'd downgraded into a walking calendar, but me. The husband who'd quietly watched her dismantle their life and finally decided to hit the brakes. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. You did it anyway. Her voice cracked. Are you leaving? I shook my head. You are. Where am I supposed to go? I assume Conrad has a couch. If not, I hear Airbnb is popular with disgraced professionals. She stood, slowly. You've really thought this through. Every detail. There was no shouting. No crying. No begging. She knew it was done. You can't drop a grenade and then complain about the noise. She left at 7:49 p.m. Just her purse and keys. I didn't watch her go. I just picked up her mug from the counter, washed it, and placed it in the cabinet like I'd been doing long before she started writing love letters in lowercase. There was nothing left to say. Not yet, anyway. But I had a feeling she'd be back. And when she was, I'd be ready. 5 days. That's how long the silence lasted after Samantha left with just her purse and the keys to a car that still technically belonged to me. Not that I cared about the car. I cared about the silence. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't freeing. It was just loud in a different way. When you've lived with someone for nearly a decade, you start to memorize their sounds. The way they hum when making tea, the lazy rhythm of their slippers on the hardwood, the habit of slamming drawers just slightly harder than necessary. Even their absence has a sound. And now the house felt like it was waiting for her to speak again, even if I wasn't. I kept myself busy. Monday, I canceled the joint checking account. Tuesday, I filed a change of address form for her. Wednesday, I moved her books into a box and left it in the garage. Thursday, I sent Baxter's vet records to my phone, deleted her emergency contact info. Friday, I changed the Wi-Fi name from Salmon Ben Nest to just Ben Now. The password? Not yours 123. And still, nothing from her. Not a text. Not an email. Not a knock. But on Saturday, 6 days post-exit, she showed up. It was 3:17 p.m., overcast, drizzling. I heard the car door before I saw her. Same black Honda Civic she used to call dependable as hell. Pulled right up the driveway like she'd forgotten anything had changed. I was on the porch, unscrewing a rusted gutter bracket. I watched her get out, coat buttoned up to her neck, hair damp, clutching a small envelope like it was her passport back to relevance. "Hey," she said, soft, like it mattered. I didn't answer. She stood at the bottom of the porch steps, awkwardly gripping the railing like it might offer some moral support. "Can we talk?" "You're already talking." She bit her lip. I meant inside. I stared at her. "That depends. Am I about to get served with some performative apology? Or are you here to return my coffee grinder?" A weak smile. "Neither. I think we need to finish this. For real." I stepped aside. Not because I was ready, but because if I didn't let her in, she'd hover. And if there's one thing worse than an unfaithful partner, it's an uninvited ghost who won't stop haunting the porch. She walked in slowly, eyes scanning the house like it had changed in her absence. "I noticed you moved the photos," she said, nodding toward the wall above the stairs. Thought the hallway could use a fresh start." We sat in the living room, across from each other, like strangers trying to remember who used to live in the silence between them. She set the envelope down on the coffee table, but didn't push it toward me. "I wrote it out," she said. "Everything I didn't say when you did what you did." "You mean when I exposed the secret you tried to bury under PDA meetings and passive aggression?" She sighed. "Ben, don't give me the Ben voice. You used to use that voice when you locked your keys in the car or burned the rice. This is not that." She nodded, eyes lowering. "Okay." Silence. The kind that isn't comfortable. The kind that makes walls itch. Then, "It wasn't love." I blinked. "Excuse me." "With Conrad," she said. "It wasn't love. I thought it might be. I thought it was, I don't know, something real. But I was wrong." I tilted my head. "How recently did you come to that groundbreaking realization?" Her cheeks flushed. 3 days ago. Well, let's just say he doesn't handle public fallout well." "Let me guess," I said. "He panicked when the university started sniffing around his professional conduct?" "He called it mutually agreed separation." "Of course he did." She rubbed her hands together. "Ben, I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to hear it from me. That it's over. That I ended it. For good." I leaned back, arms crossed. "That's sweet. But you don't get points for putting out the fire you lit." Her shoulders slumped. "I'm not here to beg." "Good. Because it wouldn't work." More silence. Then she asked the one thing I didn't expect. "Do you hate me?" It wasn't a manipulative question. It was quiet, uncertain, like someone who honestly couldn't tell if they were salvageable anymore. I took a long breath. "No, I don't hate you. I think you're capable of being kind. I think you're smart. I think, for a while, we were good together." Her eyes glistened. "But I also think," I continued, "you chose cowardice. You chose boredom and ego and excitement over integrity. You could have told me you were unhappy. You could have left first. But you didn't. You wrote love notes in library boxes like some emotionally stunted teenager. And then you had the audacity to be surprised when someone noticed." She nodded. "You're right." I looked at the envelope still sitting between us. "I assume that's the part where you apologize and try to reclaim your dignity." A weak smile. "Something like that." I slid it toward her. "Keep it. I'm not looking for closure. I already found it. I'm not asking for us to go back." "Good," I said. "Because we wouldn't survive it." She stood up. "So this is it?" "Yeah," I said. "This is it." She looked around one last time. Her eyes paused on the empty picture frame above the mantel. I'd left it there deliberately, a little echo of what used to be. Not as a shrine, just a placeholder. "I'll come by next week for the rest of my things." I nodded. "Let me know. I'll make sure I'm not here." She lingered at the door. "I did love you, you know." I nodded. "And I loved who you were." She blinked. "Who I was? Before the notes. Before the lies. Before you became someone I had to investigate." She swallowed. "I didn't mean for it to end like this." I smiled. "Just barely. Nobody ever does." She stepped out. The door clicked shut behind her. No slamming. No tears. No speech about second chances. Just finality. I stayed on the couch, listening to her car pull away, the rain getting heavier, the way the house finally felt like it had chosen a side. No more pretending. No more watching my back in my own home. Just me, and the life she tried to edit without permission. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was quiet. And that was a start. There's a moment after something ends. Anything. Really, when the silence feels like a test. Like life standing there with a clipboard, waiting to see what you do next. Breathe? Cry? Text your ex something you'll regret 5 seconds later? I cleaned the gutters. Not metaphorically. Literally. Saturday morning, Cup of black coffee in one hand, ladder in the other, the sky already hinting at spring, and everything smelling like wet leaves and freshly severed chapters. It had been 3 weeks since Samantha walked out with her envelope and the last of her illusions. I'll be back next week for the rest of my stuff, promise turned into 2 texts, then radio silence. I didn't push. Let her ghost her own closure. All that remained of her now fit neatly into 2 labeled boxes in the garage. School stuff. Miscellaneous, / don't open unless legally required. I hadn't touched either. Instead, I started doing something I hadn't done in a long time. Living. Not Instagram living. Not, hey look at me, healing nonsense. I mean the small stuff. I started cooking for one and actually enjoying it. Repainted the guest room that had once doubled as her grading cave. Finally tossed the sad futon we'd been meaning to replace since 2019. Bought a Real bed for the spare room instead. Something that didn't scream. I gave up on trying. I went back to the gym. Twice a week. No big declarations. Just movement. The kind that didn't feel like I was running from something. I started answering work emails like a person who had nothing to hide. No more guilt wedged in between Zoom calls. I even made it through 2 full staff meetings without wondering if someone was secretly laughing behind my back. But healing's never clean. Because one Thursday, of course it had to be a Thursday, I found the last note. It wasn't in the mailbox. Not in the book drop. No covert nonsense this time. It was tucked under the windshield wiper of my car, parked outside the grocery store. No envelope. Just a half sheet of paper, folded once. I know I don't deserve another word from you. But this is the only one I have left. Sorry, no name. Just that same lowercase s she used in the notes she left for him. The same signature she'd used when she was pretending her betrayal was poetry. I read it once. Then I folded it again, placed it in the glove box between a forgotten granola bar and the emergency charger, and shut it without another thought. I didn't need it. Because by then, I'd already learned the truth about people like Samantha. They don't cheat because they're unloved. They cheat because they think they're clever. Because they convince themselves the world owes them something extra. An asterisk, a little bonus round of intimacy, just for showing up and playing wife for long enough. Samantha wanted to be seen. Not by me. By someone who didn't know her yet. Someone who could flatter her into believing she was more than routine and target receipts. She got that. And then she got reality. A guy like Conrad was never going to build a life with her. Just a few romantic Thursdays tucked between tenure reviews and wine he didn't want to expense. And me? I got the ending I didn't know I needed. Not closure. That's a myth people invented to sell journals and therapy packages. What I got was ownership. Of my space. Of my story. Of the truth. I didn't have to explain it to anyone. The people who mattered already knew, and the rest didn't get a vote. Samantha resurfaced a few times over the next few months. A LinkedIn view here. A happy birthday text with no punctuation. A forwarded article about forgiveness and healing in modern relationships. I never responded. I didn't block her, either. Not out of sentiment. But because erasing her would have meant pretending it didn't happen. And that would have been a disservice to the very lesson she taught me. People show you who they are. The trick is not to edit what you see. So I let the messages come. Let her test the waters with lowercase remorse and recycled vulnerability. And I left every single one of them unanswered. Until one day they stopped. And that was the day I realized something simple and strange. I was happy. Not ecstatic. Not skipping through fields. Just okay. Comfortable in my own skin. Proud of how I handled the betrayal. Grateful I never sunk to her level. Never yelled. Never made it about revenge when the truth was already enough. One evening, I stood by the fireplace, sipping a beer, watching a YouTube video about power tools I'll probably never buy, and I caught sight of the old bookshelf, the one we bought together the first year we moved in. It still had her handwriting inside a few of the books. Little notes in the margins, half-legible thoughts on child development, or passages she wanted to quote to her class. I thought about tossing them, but then I didn't. Because her story stopped matching the moment I stopped giving it center stage. Now, it's just part of the scenery. That's what healing actually looks like. Not rewriting history, just refusing to reread it. So that's where I left it. Not in the middle of some grand redemption arc, but in the quiet comfort of a Thursday night, sitting alone in a house that finally felt like mine, knowing I'd made it to the other side of the storm. No phone calls, no letters, no lowercase anything, just peace. And the beautiful, undramatic satisfaction of knowing I had the last word. And I didn't even need to say it out loud. Subscribe to the channel